Welcome, everybody, to the Animation Station podcast. My name is Josh, and today I am joined by a very special guest, Sean O'Reilly from Arcana Studios. How you doing, Sean?
Doing excellent, thank you.
So, Sean, if you wouldn't mind, just kind of tell our listeners a little bit about yourself.
Sure. I started comic books in 2003, publishing one comic book, and then 2004 we did 2 to 10. 10 became 20, 50. We've done 300 graphic novels. I've only done 2 licenses. Most of them are original graphic novels. And then 2012, one of the books called Kagagi, created by Jay Ojic. Him and I produced an animated series called Kagagi with APTN.
Convenient.
Yeah, it's a good title. Actually, it's a cool title because in Algonquin, the language of Algonquin, it means the raven.
Oh, okay.
So that was cool. So then that started our animation studio. And then the first animated feature we did after that was Pixies. We got Christopher Plummer, the late and amazing Bill Paxton, Alexa Vega, who's fantastic. And then we've done 7, 8 movies since then. The last one came out November through Lionsgate called Go Fish. Mm-hmm. That kind of brings us up to speed.
Yeah, and I mean, here's the thing. You kind of glossed over like the majority of your career. It's like you're a writer-director, comic writer-director, you're an editor, set design. Like I just looking through everything, I was just like, good Lord, this guy's done everything. It's one of those cool things. And like CEO of your own company. But yeah, like you're writer-director of Goldfish, starring Justine, Mark Hamill, Scott McNeil, Ron Perlman, and what I'm guessing, based on the IMDb credits, the rest of your children and wife.
Yes. We are. I jokingly call us a farm-to-fork company. So we do it all. I've never done like a work-for-hire scenario where you do that much of a movie. We do from that much to that much of a movie. Development, creative writing, art direction. And so, doing Go Fish, relatively small budget, especially compared to the big boys. But when you're doing that, you kind of do it all yourself.
Yeah.
The catering budget, I'm sure on Pixar, is just massive. And so we don't have those luxuries necessarily. So whenever I'm needed, I feel like the little boy kind of plugging my finger wherever it's leaking. And I'll help out wherever I go. So it's interesting. And it kind of has me going from there. Go Fish, I think we had 20, 25 crew. So right now we're about 65 on our new project.
Nice.
And they're all working from home, which has been a challenge too.
Yeah, I can bet. I mean, and just for some of the people that don't know, like how big like an animation crew is, Sony had 600 for Into the Spider-Verse. So yeah. There's definitely a bit of a challenge there, but I mean, with only like 25 crew members, working on that film, like it looks really good. Unfortunately I have not had a chance to watch it yet, just because this week and like last week have been crazy. So it's been this whole lockdown and everything. This whole last 3 to 4 months has just been ridiculous. Yeah. But yeah, you're also the executive producer of The Reckoning, which is a horror film based in the 1600s on the Black Death. And I believe that comes out in August. Like, isn't there like a run in August?
Yeah. So that's directed by Neil Marshall, who's amazing. So to be brutally honest, how we started this is on Pixies. Kagagi was a little different. We got a large amount of funding from amazing government partners, including Shaw Rocket and some other ones. On Pixies, what I did is I created a little short film, and then it's a long story when you're starting at Pixies to answer The Reckoning, but just hold in there. What we did on Pixies...
Hey, man, I got all day. You're my only interview today. So,
I love it.
I'm here, so...
So Pixies, I had a graphic novel, which I created and wrote, created the screenplay, did the short film, and then what we do is we get a minimum guarantee against future sales, an MG as they call it. You then have to finance that yourself, or go to a bank or a lender or whatever, use that, make your movie, and then you finally get your MG back. We've been doing this 8 times. I've gotten to the point where we now finance our own MGs. And weirdly, we're now in a position where I did what's called senior debt lending on The Reckoning. So yeah, we that's how I became an executive producer on it.
And so, can you tell us a little bit about The Reckoning? I mean, other than from the article I read from I think it was like on Fantasia. From the article I read, it sounded really cool. I will say I am a wuss when it comes to horror, though. So, like, how scary is this going to be for me?
This is very intense. It's very
Oh
grounded.
no!
It's very real. And so it's interesting because Neil Marshall's done Game of Thrones, he's done Hellboy, and he's done some pretty big, amazing things. To me, this is the stuff I love. And it's not like I don't love Game of Thrones. Who doesn't love Game of Thrones? But
Well, a
this
lot
is.
of people in the last 2 seasons.
I was going to say the
haven't
last
they?
season. Yeah, I was not personally thrilled with some of the decisions. Regardless, this is the type of movie that's kind of I love. Very grounded, realistic. Takes its time. It's time to breathe. The visual effects are subtle. So I was able to see before and after the visual effects.
Mm-hmm.
And it's anytime you do that and you don't notice it's even there, those are the time I think it really works. I jokingly call it like, an offensive lineman in football.
Mm-hmm.
You never notice the guy until they make a mistake and they circle him on the screen. It's like visual effects should enhance and be subtle and just work naturally so you don't question it. And they've done an excellent job.
Nice. So with Arcana, you also have so you have arcana.com, which is like your main site that has all of your your animation stuff. But then you've got Arcana Comics, which is ridiculous. Like the amount of titles that you guys have on there is insane. Like I was just like scrolling through and I was like, oh, let's see titles, because like the front page is like, oh, here's some popular stuff. And I was like, okay, I want to just click on the titles. I'm like scrolling and scrolling. I'm like, oh my gosh, the scroll bar, it just doesn't stop. It just keeps refreshing. So like how many like comic titles do you guys have on there?
Yeah, so the arcanacomics.com, I believe, is 300 titles. We've been publishing since 2003. The hard part is, to be brutally honest with publishing, it doesn't generate a lot of revenue. And even then, if you do get a lot of revenue, the joke is in comics, the profits are paper thin. So it's wah, wah. But it's true though, because honestly, like comics is a tough gig. Like we're up to 65 people, as I mentioned. I don't know how I would pay for 6 if I was just a comic book publisher. It's a tough, scrappy market.
Have you got? I noticed on there that a lot of them were their purchase, but like, have you guys thought about doing something where you could do like maybe like a read the first chapter and then do like a monthly subscription type of scenario?
We've talked about. So I think on Comixology, I think the first 5 to 10 pages are free. I believe on our website, the first 5 pages are free. We have a panel coming up at San Diego Comic-Con, and we're doing anyone that watches it live. So Comic-Con's a little unusual this year, as are most things
everything's
during
live.
COVID.
Everything's online.
Yeah, and they're doing it pre-recorded. So we actually handed our panel in on June 22nd, and then Comic-Con plays it July 22nd. And I think Comic-Con's actually going through all of the content right now, making sure it's, kid-friendly. There's nothing risque on it. But we are also doing a live feed with Josh, who I think you know.
Mm-hmm.
And once we go live on our panel, we're going to be like, he's going to Twitter or something, and they're going to be giving away free PDFs there as well.
Oh, nice. Yeah, because like that was one of the things that honestly, like I like to do. Like whenever I go into like a comic shop or anything like a Barnes and Noble or whatever, like I'll like flip through because like I want to see how the art goes.
Totally.
And I want to see, a little bit about the story, which and that, like, honestly, if you guys did like a monthly subscription that was like, hey, we've put these on there and for like $4.99 a month, you can go and you can read all the comics. Like I would totally be down for that. Cause I mean, we do a lot of stuff with Webtoon and like but again, that's also a billion-dollar line corporation. So they can just like whatever. But like with stuff like that, I'm just like, I like doing things like that. Cause even if it's like, here's the first chapter and then go buy the second chapter.
Totally.
Like I would totally be down for that. So it's cool that you guys are, looking into stuff like that. Cause I would definitely be in there. Because like that's my thing. Like, there's only so much you can see from a cover.
Sure. And a lot of
So
times they'll have a different cover artist
yeah,
and a different interior artist.
hmm
So the art look could be totally different.
exactly. Yeah. Now you're also you've also got Howard Lovecraft, which was that based on a comic originally, or is that
It
something that
was
you okay?
Bruce Brown. I was living in Santa Monica. I remember it's kind of weird. There's some things like, I was in my bedroom in Santa Monica and Bruce called me and he's like, Sean, I got this great idea for a comic book. Go, Bruce. And it was H.P. Lovecraft as a kid. It was historical fiction, kind of. All the stuff that HP would write about as an adult, he actually experienced as a kid. I was like, oh, that's cool. And then so we started doing that. And that was Howard Lovecraft and the Frozen Kingdom, 2000, I can't remember, 7, I think. And then we did the Undersea Kingdom. These are soft cover books. And then we did the Kingdom of Madness. And then we collected them as Howard Lovecraft in the Three Kingdoms. And then the good people at Shout Factory did the exact same model I mentioned earlier with Pixies. And we got the first one up and going, the second one, the third one. And then that was interesting. So in Pixies, I kind of accidentally did something that worked for a global market. I now call it LBC, lighter, brighter, colorful. And when your Pixies licensed, to a few countries and did pretty good. So one of the things you want to do is not quite pander, but you want to have something that's all ages, 4-quadrant, they call it. Co-viewing is another word. And Howard really, it was a little dark. We had from a lot of the foreign buyers, just like, is this for kids? I'd love to know how Tim Burton's Nightmare Before Christmas compares with
Because they were able to slot that Disney on there. That's the reason that they were able to do that.
But
could you think of if Tim Burton would have just been like, this is my thing, I'm doing it, putting it out by myself. Like, kids, it would not have been a kids thing.
Well, and I think it does well in North America. I'll be curious, like Europe, Japan, Asia. Does it still do as well as like Madagascar or Minions or something that's a bit more,
Yeah.
I'd love to see the numbers because I think it does well in North America. Kids seem to adopt. I think we have a darker kid audience a little bit. North America, they're more used to.
Our American children are jaded.
A little bit more, I think. More tolerant maybe of the darker spectrum. And then when you start to travel abroad, it seems like, oh, that's too dark.
Yeah. So let's kind of go a little bit further back, Sean. Let's go back to when little Sean was running around. So tell us a little bit about.
That little.
Everyone's little at some point. So what were you like as a kid? Like, where were you into? Like, were you really big in the animation, the comics? Like, what was? I'm gonna guess, little Sean running around with those Skechers light shoes. Where you run and they like blink and stuff.
I'm a little older. We didn't have.
I was thinking it was like that was like a 1990s thing. So that was
little Sean. My first jam was probably I had a little hamster that's really young. After that was He-Man. Loved He-Man.
Nice.
I remember getting my first He-Man toy, and then I had the Man at Arms, ship or.
His little like plaything,
his little car thing that just blew my mind. That was so cool. And then also Star Wars, huge Star Wars fan. So I was collecting He-Man toys, and I loved those because they're big and chunky and everything. And obviously, my first ones were Star Wars. I remember having Ben Kenobi with the lightsaber.
Yeah, the lightsaber. Yeah, he and Luke, they had that lightsaber that like pushes up, and
I love that.
Looks like they're holding
that was
the lightsaber.
And obviously, I lost the lightsaber, and I lost his little plastic cape. But I love those. That was great. And then Transformers were massive. G.I. Joe, I never got into. I wasn't a huge gun guy, but I think I just liked the big, bulky He-Man, or the Transformers that transformed and would have like contests. I love those. My first comics were Transformers because of the toy. And then I remember we have a thing in here in Canada called Husky. Husky, it's a gas station. And it's kind of like an everyman gas station.
Gotcha.
And so I go in there and they had a spinner rack. And I bought Secret Wars issue 4. I didn't even get the first one. I missed it. and those where Hulk is bracing the mountain on his back, trying to. That blew my mind. And after that, I basically became a comic collector. It took about a year before I went into comic book stores. I didn't even know there were such things. So I was probably, I can't remember. You could look up Secret Wars, but I think I was 7. So 83, 4, somewhere in there, 5 maybe.
So
whenever
real quick,
Secret
so
Wars,
with comics, like, were you more of like a Marvel DC guy
Marvel.
or Marvel? Okay.
Yeah, almost hands down. Like,
well, thanks everybody. It was great talking with you, Sean. We'll see you guys in the next episode. No.
I was a Marvel zombie. Like, seriously, I don't know what it was. I loved, and then after that, I got into X-Men. Holy crow! It's
X-Men
like
was my jam. Like, of
it
all the
dialed
Marvel
right
stuff,
into
it was
me.
X-Men. Yeah.
Seriously, like I read, I almost remember my first issue. So then I became a hardcore collector. I bought X-Men '94, which was a fortune for a child. Giant size X-Men #1 I bought, and this by a fortune. Back then they were like $100. So now I don't even know what they're at. Giant size X-Men #1, and I got it graded with CGC. Like, I went hardcore nerd.
You went hardcore. You were like, I don't even want to read this. I just want to get it and put it in a plastic.
I don't want to own a copy less than 9.0. Because that's just embarrassing. Like, no one wants that.
I mean, what's that one? Hold on, I don't have my glasses on. I don't want to get up either. That's a 9.5.
You have a giant size X-Men?
No, Captain America 1, 2, 3, first appearance of Fury. So yeah, it just sits there. I've never read it. It's just in its thing, just chilling, doing its deal.
And we went to local Vancouver comic conventions, and I remember Jim Lee went to one, and that was like blew my mind, and it was super cool. And I remember waiting in line for him to sign our comics and everything.
Yeah, mine was like, again, I was a DC boy, so like I grew up with like my jam was like Teen Titans and like Robin, that like Tim Drake.
Oh, I love that Robin. See, I did buy that one. I
had those.
That.
I was like, because he's different. It's not like, animated series Robin where he's like a suck up. It's like this is like
he had his own.
Yeah, had his own everything. And like I was all for it. But I'm like, I went to a convention and George Perez was there, and I waited in line. Oh God, it was maybe an hour because he was doing sketches and autographs.
Right.
And it was one of those
cool,
like,
though.
I mean, I obviously like I waited in line. I'm gonna get a Nightwing sketch, and that's what I did. But it was one of those like you're sitting there and you're just like, oh my gosh, I've never not moved for so long before. But yeah, I think I was like maybe like 12 at the time, so I was like, so like I was sure I wanted to go run around and jump off things, but yeah, but no, like funny. That was like I've never met Jim Lee. Every time that he's like come out here, like his stuff now is like good luck. Like you have to spend like a fortune and like be like super VIP, and I'm just like, man, it would have been cool to meet Jim Lee back in, prime Jim Lee.
Oh, way back then it was weird. Like it was not a convention hall. I don't know where we were. And it was just like a wooden table with the metal legs, and it was very, very like surreal looking back. It was very small. And going back to DC, like I think what I found intimidating, like I loved Batman. Who doesn't love Batman? Everyone loves Batman. Back then it might have been issue 500 or 400, and like going that little OCD nature I have, where I want to have all the issues and I want to have CGC and the kind of collector me. I'm like, how the hell am I going to get 500 issues? And then #1 will be a fortune. Like back then it wasn't like $100. Like this was crazy money back then. Now it's, I don't know what it is, but
yeah, that's why I think like the Robin stuff like really appealed to me, because like when I like started really getting into comics, like they were only maybe like 20 issues in.
Yeah.
So it wasn't that it was still kind of difficult to find like 1s and 2s, but I mean like normally you were able to find a lot of those. And so like I like the 2 that I collected the Young Justice run and I collected the Robin run. Those are like the 2 like absolute complete runs that I have. The Robin one is massive. Those are like the 2 complete ones that I have. But yeah, I know what you're talking about, like going in and trying to, start with like good luck finding Detective Comics, like OG Detective Comics first appearance.
Right.
You'll be there forever. But yeah, it's a crazy, like, the comics, like, they're cool, like, I love them, but at the same time I also hate them
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
because
I think most people in the
it's
industry have that same love-hate
yeah.
relationship.
Well, what about, so you were watching Transformers, which, by the
Yeah.
way, Transformers, wonderful marketing. You want this new thing, guess what? We're gonna show it on the show, and then you got to go buy it because it's
Oh, I
Transformers.
I stood in line for not quite, but Omega Supreme when it came out. Toys R Us, yeah, that was because he was on the show, and I just had to have Omega Supreme.
Yeah, my thing, like, when our thing was like Pokemon, like that
Yeah,
was like the everything. Like when a new
yeah,
Pokemon came out, or like a new deck of for cards came out, and like I still have some of like the OG like Wizards of the Coast ones. Like I have a one pack of like series 2 that's like not opened, and I'm
yeah.
like, I'm gonna hold on to it forever because maybe one day it'll be worth something. And it's kind of worth something, but I'm like,
Yeah,
I will in another 20 years and then it'll be worth 2 grand.
exactly.
Uh, but yeah, it's one of those, like, yeah, my thing was like always like the cards and everything like that, because like I don't know what it was like in that like 99, like into like the 2000s, like toys weren't, I say that there was Beanie Babies and Furbies,
Right,
so
right.
that's what our generation had, was the atrocious Beanie Babies that are now worthless.
Well, no, I played Magic the Gathering. I had a couple decks, and I had like my black and white deck, I remember, and you had a green and blue deck, and so you'd build your cards.
Hmm.
Were you ever Magic the Gathering? No.
My uncle played Magic the, like when he was a kid, like Magic the
Am I? Am
Gathering
I?
was
I'm
like
basically the demo of your uncle. Then here it
pretty
is.
much, yeah. Like yeah, he was Magic the Gathering and Dungeons and Dragons. That was
I love D&D. We
his
played
thing.
so much D&D.
Man, that's the thing that's broken right now is Dungeons and Dragons for me. Like
Right.
I was playing with my friends in Oklahoma. We played for years, and then I moved out here and I was doing it, just like this, and it was totally fine for me because they were all together still in Oklahoma and I was out here. And then everything happened with the quarantine,
Right, right, right.
so they couldn't go to each other's houses and play. So then it turned into, how do we play now? And I was like, just do what I've been doing. It's been working just fine.
Yeah.
But
So I
yeah,
remember my mom
yeah,
got the original Dungeons and Dragons handbook. Like this had to be 1980 or somewhere in there. It's like Stranger Things. Like that's
yeah.
actually what happened with me. And then my friends and I would play, and it was kind of weird. And then there was newspaper articles on, like, I can't remember, people either killing themselves or getting aggressive. And my mom's like, "Should I have bought that for you?" And it all of a sudden had this tainted thing, which actually somewhat made it cooler. And
Like,
then
yeah,
so
Dungeons and Dragons is evil. And you're like,
I know, you're like,
ooh.
ooh. And then when AD&D came out, Advanced Dungeons and Dragons, holy crew, that just blew my mind. That was so much cooler, and had everything it had before, but all the rules were advanced, and it felt like a teenager game, and
Hmm.
it kind of rebranded itself, and I thought that was awesome too.
And then 4 came along and
Yeah, and we used to play the
crushed it.
Ravenloft, the
Ravenloft, yeah.
vampire one. And it was funny because like I haven't talked about this stuff in like
Yeah,
literally
they've
decades.
rebranded that now to, I believe it's like Curse of Strahd for
Okay,
5e. So like they've kind of like redone it and like made it 5e.
because
Um,
those expansion packs are so fun. So like there was a friend of mine named Sean Todd, and would go in his backyard, and him and his brothers and I would get like a Ravenloft the expansion pack, and then we'd go in the tent and we'll have like a sleepover and would play the whole D&D thing in his backyard in a tent. It was super fun.
yeah, that's our thing, was like, it was like every other Friday we would go and we would play at our friend's house and he would DM. And it started off like there was just like 4 of us and it was
Yeah,
very small and I loved it. And then it expanded to 7,
right.
which is still fun, but then it's also like, oh my gosh, there's so many things. And I think we kind of burned them out a little bit.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Well, I mean, our last campaign did not go well. It was it was basically like a full TPK. So
Yeah.
there were like, my character survived and 2 characters that warped away survived and everybody else dead. So we lost 4 characters. Yeah, and so that kind of like ruined him, I think. So now he kind of doesn't really want to play, which kind of sucks. So now I'm like, anybody want to play Dungeons and Dragons? I'm sitting here and I'm like, I want to play, please.
See, it's funny because like the DM totally makes everything.
Yeah.
You'll have some DMs that make it way too easy and you get too rewarded and you have this weird guilt. You're just kind of like, oh, okay, thanks. You get a magic ring +2. You get this. Like, I didn't really deserve that. And then you get other ones that are just out to kill you.
Yeah.
And like it's not even like gold's involved. Like you're just getting wailed on. You're like, come on, dude. Like I can't.
Yeah. That's kind of the way this one turned out. It was like, but and yeah, that's also, you know, your players too. Because it was like, let's just leave. Guys, we can literally just go. We don't have to fight. And that's the thing that like is weird. Because like I've DM'd some stuff. We did like I was gonna do the thing with the Dragon Prince people. Because a bunch of them play. So like I know Adrian plays, Cole plays, Jesse plays. So we were gonna do a whole thing. And I was gonna DM that. But then it all just depends on like how your players go.
Sure, totally.
And yeah, that's sometimes it's a mess. Like
I was always like, yeah, I always was in character, but I didn't like, you know, LARP or anything. I didn't go too far. But at the same time, you have some people that maybe don't take it seriously. And I couldn't imagine kids now because they'll be like, my turn, and they'll roll a dice and it's like that's not what you're there for. Like you gotta kind of
you gotta pay attention. And like our DM didn't like us to, you know, like what's it called? I don't know. When you're like metagame, he didn't like us when we metagame.
Right.
So like we would like kind of huddle together and be like, all right, if you go do this, I want to do this. He hated that. And I'm like, you wouldn't be doing that in combat. We'd be like, yeah, but it's a game.
Right. Totally.
Yeah, like we did a whole thing on our last campaign where it was like me, the DM's wife, and then another girl that played with us. We all decided that we were going to be siblings. So like there's a random thing that's like you can be like a lichen elf. So it's like, but it's not like a real werewolf. They just turn into wolves.
Right.
And like the thing is like this big. Like there is like nothing on it. It was just like a little bitty blurb. And I was like, cool, let's be this. And so our DM, like, he was like, it seems too powerful, so I'm gonna nerf it. But then like we were just like had text conversation after text conversation of like creating our backstory with each other, and it was just so much fun. And like I was the oldest, so like I was like the elder brother, and then we had younger sister and then younger brother. And it was just a whole thing, and like we put so much time into it. We were the Dwarf clan. Like it was just like so fun and stupid. And then they both died. So,
and did you have an emblem or anything?
Yes,
like
it was like a white paw. We were like the last ones. We were trying to figure out like who killed our pack, and it was a whole big deal.
That's
our
cool.
sister, I know actually it was our brother, the DM's wife. She was like a blood hunter or whatever, so she could actually turn into a werewolf. So she was a wolf that could turn into a werewolf. So it was a whole thing where we were like, "What?" And like we tried.
Well, now you got a comic series you can pursue.
Yeah, like we didn't let anybody else know that that's what we were.
Yeah.
So like whenever she turned into a werewolf, we were like, "What? Oh my gosh, crazy!" Yeah, it was super fun. But yeah, like that's Dungeons and Dragons. It's a fantastic game, full of imagination. And
see, it was funny because when the DM was too wildly at times, that was kind of the drawback. You always need a good one, and that's kind of why I also like Magic the Gathering and HeroClix was another one. Did you ever play HeroClix?
The only HeroClix I ever participated in was a free comic book day, and they were giving a free Spider-Man HeroClix, and I got one, and I was like, cool, and I had it on my desk for the longest time, and I'm like, I don't even know how to play this game, but
it's pretty fun.
It looks pretty cool.
And because then those type of games had much more stringent rules.
Mm-hmm.
You still had a little bit of the creative role playing, but like it's a rule set, and you can't just do anything you want.
Yeah. Oh man. So what? I mean, my goodness. Like, what about movies? Like, were there any like movies that you were super into?
Yeah, I mean, I
Or
depends
are
what.
still into? Because I mean, I'm
Yeah, it
not gonna
depends what
judge.
age. On my wall over here, I have Conan's Sword.
Nice.
So I loved all the Schwarzenegger movies, probably from age 15 on. Watched everything with him. And back then there were VHS tapes, and so I collected all those too.
Yeah.
I had about 30 different Schwarzenegger VHS tapes. Obviously, the MCU, I just love watching the first Iron Man. I remember where it was and how cool it was, and what they've done is just nothing short of amazing. Indiana Jones, those were just incredible. Star Wars, obviously, I mentioned that. That was probably the biggest one for me. The other thing that was weird, I remember movies that are significant. I used to work at Platinum Studios. They published Cowboys and Aliens. And
Nice.
so I went on a road trip with a friend of mine to California in 1997. It was around July, and the original Men in Black came out. And 10 years later, I was working with one of the producers of Men in Black to the day. And it was just kind of weird because like I don't go to Santa Monica that much. But
Well, it's
that
hard
was
to get in
kind of,
and out of.
yeah, well,
Let's be real. It's hard to get in and out of.
and then so I lived there for about 3 years, from 2007 to 2010. Lived in Santa Monica, worked at Platinum and did that. But yeah, Star Wars. Trying to think what else. Predator, Aliens. I guess they're part of the MCU now. I don't know if you saw that.
Are they?
They just released 3 days ago. I forget who the artist was. Awesome artist, and it's Predator holding the Iron Man head. So they were having an Aliens, Iron Man, Predator comic book series. And my
Hold
guess
up,
is,
hold up. Batman fought the Predator like in the 90s, though.
but that's a licensing one because it's Warner Brothers
Oh, okay.
Fox.
Oh, it's Fox. I didn't even think about
So
that.
Disney owns Fox, so they own
Yeah.
the Predator and Aliens, so you could segue them into the MCU. And then my other thought is now that they own X-Men, do you remember the Brood?
Yeah.
So the
You
Brood
could do
was kind of a
something cool with the
ripoff of
Brood. Yeah.
Aliens. It was cool. I love the Brood. But would you use the Brood, or do you just use Aliens, or do you have both because they're different species? See, these are the things that keep me up at night, man. I just don't know anymore.
Well, it's one of those. It's the crazy thing because you're like when you look at now what Disney owns,
Oh, it's
and
great.
you're just like, but, and it just gets crazy. Like who knows? Like we're supposed to be getting that. Shoot, the that X-Men movie.
Oh yeah, New Mutants one.
New Mutants that we were supposed to get like 2 years ago.
Apparently, they went back to the original now. So they did I think they did reshoots, and then they did a whole bunch of editing. And
Is it going to be R now? Because I thought the original one was supposed to be R, and then they were like, let's make it PG-13.
Yeah.
Are they going to go back to R?
I don't know. It depends what press release. This thing has started and stopped more times than my first car. Like this thing's crazy.
I like how now it's like it's coming out in September, and it's like
I know.
I
know. It's been pushed so many times. They're like, oh, we're going to reshoots, and then because I think it was Maze from Lord of the Rings, from Game of Thrones. But it looked way different and way older and stuff, and the reshoots didn't quite sync. And I heard they're pulling them back, and it'll be interesting.
Oh man, like
see, that's what I'm hoping. Like
that was what I was really hoping for, because like when they first announced it, and like it's going to be a dark X-Men, and I was like, cool, that sounds awesome,
right? But now I'm very happy with everything 5G's done. I think most people are. The hard part with X-Men, I think, because it's the series, and then I'm a diehard X-Men fan. The series is very generational. So you have the original young Charles Xavier with a dream, and he gets a handful of people. And then that dream kind of dies at 94, and he gets a brand new team. And then Wolverine's kind of the new guy, but Scott Summers is the old guard. Mm-hmm. And so then they have this conflict, and then you get a couple generations more. Like the X-Men storyline kind of kept evolving. Yeah. It kept changing. And to me, that's what I kind of really liked. And then you get the new guy, Longshot. And he was the new, fresh-eyed guy, and Wolverine was the old jaded veteran. And then it kind of kept progressing. And that's how I think Old Man Logan kind of came about. And then now we've seen the death of Wolverine.
Yeah. It'll be interesting to see what they do X-Men wise.
I hope they start at the beginning.
I mean,
that's my hope, because you can't dive into like Wolverine before kind of showing up, I think.
It'll be interesting. Like, what I'm concerned about is, like, are they going to? Because, like, that was one of the things that was cool about the X-Men. Like, they were part of the Marvel universe, but also like not really part of the Marvel
Right.
universe
Yeah, they're kind
until
of
we needed to sell like a bunch of comics and do
right.
this cool crossover stuff.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see like if they still do that, or if they're like, hey, Phase 9, we're gonna bring everything all together
I
and
think
like
it
make
honestly, you know, it's kind of weird. Think of this. So it might be, this is very contemporary. In the late 70s, early 80s, they had an ad say, do you know what your children are? And it put mutie on it. And the mutant was clearly symbolic and analogous to racism. And I mean, right now, with all the things happening with BLM, I mean, maybe that's, you know, they can bring that mutant thing because it had very good social issues where you can talk to kids and it wasn't on the nose. So it wasn't like scary and real. And it was this thing being a mutie and a mutant. And they ended up having that, you know, racism that was dealt with in a comic book. So you don't feel terrified. But it could deal with real issues. And I remember one of the issues I remember reading, Kitty Pryde was coming out of a nightclub with all her friends. It's like 2 a.m. and they're just sitting around a table and talking. And it was weird because it was like, you know, 300 issues of X-Men. I think they're up to 400 now. But like that was a scene that really stood out to me. And it's a bunch of superheroes just talking at a diner. And I don't remember what issue, probably 180s, 70s, but it was really cool because it was a bunch of teenagers and kids dealing with the realities of their world, even though they can phase through walls.
Yeah.
It was just kind of cool.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. Like, I would like to see them, you know, like, to me, like I always want to see him start with like OG X-Men, like Beast, Jean, Scott,
Me too.
Bobby.
That's what I'm saying.
Like, that's what I
I
want to
almost
see.
feel you have to start there.
Yeah.
Because you got to start there in order to get to the good stuff, and it's almost linear.
But I also see, unfortunately, Disney being like, you know
Let's get
what?
Wolverine in here.
Let's put Wolverine number 1,
Right,
and
I know.
somehow it'll be Hugh Jackman again, and
Oh, you
it'll be
think?
like, I'm sure. It's like, well, I would have said, you know, like they would never do a Pirates of the Caribbean without Johnny Depp.
Yeah.
But now I guess they are with Margot.
But I think he is making a cameo, I think.
We'll see. I mean, I have no idea what they're going to do with that. But like doing like X-Men without, you know, Hugh Jackman, even though to me, first off, I never really liked Wolverine. I was in that Scott Summers camp. Like it was like me and like 4 other people, and one of them's James Marsden. So like that was just us over here. But like I also, like, from reading the comics and stuff, I was like, he's not Wolverine at all. Like, Wolverine's a small burly Canadian man.
Totally. And I just actually talked to my son. So he's, I can't remember, I think he's 5'5", 5'6". I'm like, hey, you're taller than Wolverine. What? Like, no, seriously, Wolverine is like 5'3", 5'4".
Yeah,
no, he wasn't.
Wolverine's like
5'4",
and you're like,
he's exactly 5'4". He was this, and because he's a Wolverine, he was a short, small animal type dude that was resilient, feisty. I mean, that is who he's kind of, you know, patterned after.
Yeah, like I'm sitting there like, that would have been cool. You done that, and they're like, no, let's get a freaking 6 foot tall Adonis. And
with nice smooth ones.
Yeah, and you're like, what? It's crazy. Like, it's like I want to see them do. I also want to see him start as kids,
right?
Because I mean, like that was the thing that like I thought was kind of meh about like when they did the other X-Men, which I mean, I get that they've been, you know, they're almost like established at this point,
right?
But I don't know. Like, I want to see like
you want to see the formation of the School of the Gifted, right? Like, and the other thing I think, you know, it's I think one thing that will be interesting is the Multiverse of Madness, Doctor Strange, because I do think they'll kind of do this Flashpoint thing where you could have the entire Fox X-Men universe as an alternate timeline, which was explained in, I think, Infinity War. But Multiverse of Madness, I think you're going to have, and then also the Scarlet Witch and Vision. I think they're bringing back Quicksilver from the X-Men. Evan is his name. You know who I'm talking about.
Quicksilver from X-Men or Quicksilver from
X-Men. I read that. I don't know if that's a rumor. So it's what's his name? The Sweet Dreams. He does Super Slow-mo. So I've read he's going to be in Scarlet Vision.
That'll be weird.
Because I'm just curious whether MCU will they do the multiverse and have like this is MCU Prime and also over here is X-Men. Because if they do, it'll almost be Star Wars. In the galaxy far, far away, and blah blah blah. A long time ago, in a multiverse far, far away, something far, far removed. And then you could go back to the 60s and you show movies starting in an alternate timeline, 60s, 70s, 80s, and then they can kind of converge at some point in time.
Yeah.
That'd be kind of interesting. I don't know.
I mean, it's kind of sad to know that we won't see the X-Men that we've kind of known for the last like 3 or 4 movies again.
Right.
They're all gone pretty much.
Right.
Which kind of sucks.
See, I don't mind the recasting. I would love a recasting personally.
I mean, yeah, I same, but I mean, like I was like, we just got Scott Summers, guys. We just got a new Scott Summers, and he was good, and they're like, get rid of him.
Yeah.
Patrick
Stewart's a tough one to replace because he is perfect.
Yeah, like it. I mean, they'll probably keep Deadpool just because I mean.
Oh yeah, I know they will. That's a home run.
I don't know how, but it's like, do you make him PG-13? Like, what do you do, Disney? Like, do you keep that under like the 20th century? Because isn't that what they're renaming it? They're just naming it like 20th century entertainment.
Getting rid of Fox.
Yeah, which kind of sucks, but it's like I understand, but
and then instead of Stan Lee cameos, do you have Deadpool cameos somewhere in each movie? Is that too breaking fourth wall? I don't know. Can you get away with that? Is it too schlocky? I don't know. The Stan Lee stuff I love. But
the first one that you could do would be really cool. Like would be kind of funny if you'd almost do like a Bigfoot type of thing and he's just like this and then he like turns. Right. That'd be kind of funny. Right. Or like if they just like he like stops the movie and he's like, hey guys, Deadpool cameo. And then he just ends.
So you could have a whole bunch of fun ones, right?
Like, yeah, that would be pretty interesting. Or I mean, you could also do a thing where like he just replaces somebody in the crew.
Yeah.
Like it's just like he's now Captain America and he's just like just for that scene and like nobody pays attention.
Right.
Like everyone just like acts like normal and then it's back and you're just like all right. That would now I want this to happen. Now I want that to happen. So Sean, like, what type of things does Arcana have going forward?
Yeah. So we are in production of Heroes of the Golden Masks. Am I allowed to even say stuff? So what we have, I think we've announced, we've announced nothing actually. So I guess I can announce it here. Hey. Comic-Con, we've announced some stuff on there. So I've directed Ron Perlman a few times. So Ron Perlman is back.
I noticed that. I was like, do you have like Ron Perlman in your back pocket? Like, how does that work?
I wish. No. He's awesome to work with. Honestly, what I love about him, his natural voice. I mean, he's just got a beautiful cadence, a good raspiness. He just sounds cool. So every time I get the chance to work with him, I definitely try to. And I think he's fantastic. So, we have Ron, so I can announce that here. But Heroes of Gold Mask is in production now. We're delivering Q1 2021. I'm also in production of Ultraduck. This is created by Edgar Delgado. We published the book a while ago. We've also done Valiants, Volume 1 and 2, and it's an anthropomorphic duck. And he also breaks the fourth wall, kind of like Deadpool. Also in production,
I was looking at that and from some of the stuff that Josh sent over, and I was like, it's like Gizmo Duck mixed with like Howard the Duck, and they like put them together.
Yeah, so it's kind of like Edgar describes of where he wanted DuckTales to go back in the day.
Looking at it, it does have a lot of that like DuckTales-esque vibe to it. That's what the first thing I thought. I was like, did you guys do like live action, almost like super CG like DuckTales? Like this?
Yeah, a little bit. It was funny because not years ago, I guess 4 years ago, I was saying I wanted to do anthropomorphic characters in CGI. And I swear this is before anything came out. the fox from Robin Hood, the old cartoon Disney Robin Hood. I'm like, imagine turning that into CGI, and all of a sudden Zootopia comes out, and Nick Wilde looks identical to that fox had he been CGI.
Yeah.
And so it was kind of cool. And then we also have in production Go Fish TV series.
Nice.
The movie came out last November through Lionsgate, Grindstone, and that had Ron Perlman in as well. Yay! Mark Hamill, Justine, you mentioned at the beginning. And so that movie we've now licensed to over 100 countries worldwide. We do our sales in-house. A young lady named Jarena. Hi, Jarena. Thanks. She's been doing awesome. And so now we're turning it into a TV series. So we've done all 26 episodes as animatics and just starting production, real production.
Nice. That's super cool. Like, especially, you know, the way that everything is kind of going right now. Like, I was talking to one of my friend Harold, who he's like almost like a secondary co-host on here. We were talking, and I was like, it's going to be interesting, you know, not this year, but next year, what movies come out, because this is a whole year of like nothing being made.
Yeah.
So it's cool that you guys are, you know, you're doing production and everything. So like you are going to have something, whereas like there's a lot of this stuff that's like, we're probably going to get a lot of indie features because they can be made real quick. And
you can almost feel it like in all the streaming stuff. I think Boys season 2 is just coming out now. I think this is going to be the last wave of like big new stuff. Like Netflix, they had Dead to Me season 2 come out a little while ago. Ozark came out a little bit during COVID. But the thing is, like, you know, we binge watch, and Ozark, I think we started Friday night. We're done like before Saturday night. Like we just went crazy. I love Ozark.
Just the season. I was thinking just like the entire series. I was like, that's like 5 seasons. Did you guys sleep?
No, just the season. But like, you know, it's hard because I think with, you know, relative ease, you can finish a season in a weekend.
Yeah.
It's like 3-4 hours a day, which sounds a little crazy, and maybe it is, but it's not totally hardcore. Maybe it is hardcore.
Yeah, it's one of those, like, I got a screener for Umbrella Academy season 2, which comes out later this month.
Read that,
and like I finished it all, and I was like, I gotta rewatch it all again.
Right.
Like I was one of those. I was like, man, it was just so good, and like, but yeah, like thinking on it, and you're like, I'm probably not gonna get. Like, it took me a year or almost 2 years to get season 2.
Right.
So now I'm like, yeah, I'll probably get season 3 2022.
Totally.
So, yeah.
The one I also want to watch again, Mandalorian.
Yeah.
I watched it with my son, like, you know, it came out, I can't remember, Thursday or Friday or whenever it came out. And so we'd watch it that day. They have to wait a week. And then we'll watch and wait. So I want to watch them like all 10, and they're relatively short. They're all about half hour.
Yeah, about half hour. I think the longest one's like 40 minutes. Like not anything insane.
So it's a 5-hour day.
Yeah.
It's like a
that's
day
easy.
At work.
Oh man. I mean, yeah, like I said, it's good that you guys are still, you know, doing stuff like during this craziness. So that's super cool. Dude, Sean, thank you so much for coming on. This was quite fun.
I appreciate it.
Oh, no problem. Where can everybody find you and Arcana, like social media wise?
Yeah, so Twitter and Facebook, we all are on arcana.com. Links are on there. I don't know the exact handles. That's Josh Marketing. But yeah, arcana.com. Check out Heroes of the Golden Masks coming out 2021. Ultraduck, Go Fish, and feel free to read our comics. And our panel's coming up at Comic-Con July 22nd.
Nice.
So...
And we don't even have to wait for Josh, because this Josh will put all the links in the show notes. So just click on the show notes. You can find those. No problem. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Josh L. Cain. You can find the podcast on Instagram at Animation Station Podcast, on Twitter at Animate Podcast. All of our episodes are available: iTunes, Stitcher, Podbean, Google Play, Spotify, YouTube, animationstationpodcast.com. Pretty much anywhere that you can download a podcast, it's there. We've got, I mean, we do ask, please, you know, rate and review. There's 1.2 million podcasts on iTunes right now. So rating and reviewing help, you know, boost the numbers so people can find us and then listen to us. So please do that. But Sean, again, thanks so much for coming on.
Thank you. I hope to be back if you'll let me.
You're welcome. You're welcome back anytime. So for the Animation Station podcast, I'm Josh.
I'm Sean. Thank you very much.
Bye, everybody.
Take care. Thank you.
I'm not the leading authority on waxing poetic or using big words, but this writer is my philosophy about living in such a world. Yeah, you and I got a life to live, so what's the point?